And what he said was that fast thinking is the kind of thinking that you use when you're running from the bear. And the way I interpret it, slow thinking is the kind of thinking you use when you want to change the world. The problem is, in America, in our modern world, information is doubling every 18 months. We've got all sorts of pressure on us from stockholders and venture. I work with some venture funds that want us to get to profit tomorrow. We don't have time to slow think. We don't think we do. We think we only have time to run from the bear. And the consequences are devastating. Fast thinking is not systems thinking. It's instinctual, it's unconscious, it's automatic, and it makes you react without deep thought. You do it all the time and you don't think about it. It's when you go out in the yard and all of a sudden you go, damn, it's a snake. Well, the truth is, it's a hose. That's fast thinking. It keeps you alive. It's really good to have fast thinking in your life. It's kept the evolutionary through our periods for 6 million years, man alive. But it makes tons of mistakes. It's tremendously inefficient. The brain structures of fast thinking are the amygdala. This is the part at the very base. You see that little thing that's poking out at the bottom there. It's kind of a generalized, so we can call that the amygdala. And basically, it's very close to another thing called the hippocampus. But what it does is it tags information, like puts spice on incoming information. So it tags information with emotional value so that you can pay attention to it. The only way the brain knows to pay attention to anything if it's got emotional tagging to it. Right now, your brain, as I said, is processing 10 million bits of data. It's paying attention to the stuff that's getting the most emotional impact, which right now is my voice, unless you got a rock in your shoe. So basically, the amygdala tags it with emotional energy. There's a little spice to it. The anterior cingulate, which is on the top up there of your limbic system, of your most ancient system, basically what it does is it says, oh, here's some information I better pay attention to quick. It throws it down to the hippocampus, which is a routing arena. It's also part of working memory, but it's a routing arena. And it says, let me match it up with something else. And that's how I ended up thinking my hose with a snake. I saw something wiggly. I got an emotional charge. The anterior cingulate threw it way back to the hippocampus right away. Oh, it's a snake. Well, it wasn't a snake. But that's what your fast route said. And the fast route works so well because it only uses that little bit of brain. And it's the least evolved part of your brain. So what is the key to slow thinking? Well, the context that I'm trying to put fast and slow thinking is, fast thinking is these lower brain areas, and slow thinking are the upper brain areas. Many more of them. So basically the prefrontal lobes are like the executive in charge. It controls everything. It's basically the part that makes us more human. Planning for the future, analyzing multifaceted data, organizing your thought, focusing attention for extended periods, thinking abstractively, basically everything that makes you a human. Predicting outcomes, showing mental dexterity, multitasking, focusing attention on your relevant data, working memory, emotional regulation, social interaction. The interesting thing is we're going to see is emotional regulation is dramatically important into analyzing systems, which you would never think. So cooperation, empathy, weighing consequences, developing strategy, developing dynamic models, schemas, simultaneously considering a lot of actions and making appropriate adaptations. This is the key to unsuccessful attempts. You can't do that using the structures down here. You have to use this. But when you fast think, you can't. Our emotions enhance our ability to systems think. How is that? Well, emotions refine our ability to observe. What they do is, the only way that your brain can pick out what's important to you and how to apply it is by tagging emotions. Now, it sounds kind of counterintuitive, and it is. Matter of fact, in the 1990s, a guy named Antonio Damasio came up with a book called The Descartes Error that turned the whole neuroscience world on its ear. When I first started doing research into that in the 90s, there was just so much screaming and hollering about this. But he demonstrated conclusively And he may get a Nobel for this kind of work someday, but what he demonstrated conclusively was that emotion and reason and analytical thinking and statistical thinking all share the same circuits. So therefore, if we're not able to refine our emotions or activate the part of our brain that does refine the emotions, we're not able to make the distinctions in the data that allow us to apply it effectively. And if we're fast thinking, we can't see the distinctions because our emotions aren't being mediated effectively. What those prefrontal areas are doing, up here, is they're doing a tremendous job of refining your emotions. So this is why you yell at your spouse when you don't want to, or smack your kid, or do something that you're horrified about, or flip somebody the bird while you're driving down the road and you go, that's not me. Well, that's not me because you're fast thinking. So we don't want to use those circuits if we're going to think systematically. But what Deming's theory, what Deming's system did was it forced these prefrontal areas to be activated. So, and the interesting thing is that EQ, emotional quotient, a guy named Daniel Goleman came up with a book called Emotional Intelligence about 12 or 14 years ago. And it was another thing that turned everything on its ear. About the same time as Damasio was doing it on neuroscience, Goleman was doing it in psychology, and he found it almost every, probably 99.9% of the cases, the people that were successful in the world were the people that had a high EQ, not a high IQ.